Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. It's been a long day. I've been speaking with entrepreneurs and investors since morning. Today morning, Mr. Jayan Chaudhary joined us, spoke to our audience. Then after him, we had Mr. Sanjay Nair giving us keynote address. And then just before you guys, we had a panel full of great investors of startups. So had an insightful discussion with them. Now is the time that the real founders speak to us. Now, when we talk about Indian startups today, the conversation is no longer just about speed, scale, or maybe just valuation. It's really about quality, and that's the reason I've given this topic for the discussion today. Over the last decade, we saw an incredible phase of hypergrowth, bold bets, aggressive expansion, risk taking. But with the market correction, founders and investors have had to pause and reflect and see what truly matters. So today, when we talk in this session, I want to focus on that shift, that particular shift, how the definition of quality in startup has evolved in the last many years. Is it about stronger products, better unit economics, disciplined governance, or deeper customer value? How is it going for founders and startups in India? It's also about what we have learned from the past. We will also had to look back what has happened in the last 10 years when it comes to India's startup ecosystem, the lessons from corrections, how founders are now building more thoughtfully or for long term and sustainably. We will also touch upon how entrepreneurs are balancing ambition with discipline. That's the red flag area where we get to hear some less happy stories of governance failures, mishaps, but lessons to be taken from everywhere. So that's another point that we can address. How their mindset around risk and leadership has changed. How founders are now thinking differently about capital, who they partner with when they rise, what are their strategy to grow in 2026, and all of that. This is about building companies. This is the moment, this is the inflection point in India where we see founders coming not just from metros but across cities with innovation of next level. And we look forward to next decade of innovation and that same ambition coming out of India. With that context, let's dive into our conversation today. To open with, I really, really want to start with looking back at what has happened. Today, Startup India is completing 10 years now. So, in the last 10 years, from a larger point of view, talk to us what, in your observation, what factors truly helped startup founders to build startups in India? Many, many years ago, that a lot of students get hate from the society, parents. What is the startup? Is it a thing? So that cultural shift has taken place many years ago, but that still stands as a point. So give us a recap of what has happened in the last 10 years. I'm quickly coming to you, Ajit, and then we'll bring other panelists too.
Okay, you want to start with me? All right. So I started in 2011, to be precise, right? And that was the era when Flipkart was just starting to go up, and most of the known startups that you know, Zomatos of the world, everybody started going up. So I come from that particular era, and yeah, you're absolutely right. There was no I mean, before that, there was not even this word called startup. I mean, we didn't know. Even in the engineering colleges and all that, you don't know the word called startup. You just go get a good job, try to get the highest paying salary, and in most of the things in the Economic Times or whatever, whichever newspaper out there, the best thing is about the what's the fat paycheck that you get from colleges. But now, so this past 10 years, that has radically shifted. I just recently went for my silver jubilee anniversary of my college, and the questions that students ask about is to how to start up, what to do about it. It is not about getting another cushy job out there, but it's rather about what did I do to go about with starting up and so on and so forth. So I would say that there's a radical shift in mindset. Starting up is the cool thing. Starting up is the highest paying job that you can possibly get, is what they think. Um, but I also but the fundamentals have not changed. It's the most toughest job that you can take up. The chances of failure is still 99%. you have only 1% chance to actually succeed. But that said, the number of people who are trying to get to that 1% has significantly gone up. It is the more cooler thing to do. So I would say that shift is very good, and that shift is good for India. The more people who are trying to be in that 1%, then that 1% is going to grow. Ultimately, it's not going to be 1% at all, is what I think. So yeah, that's the shift that has happened.
Interesting. I am bringing in Prasanna. Now, tell me, because you've opened the year with big happy news, big fat funding. We have seen in the last 2 years that there was a dip in funding, and many founders struggled. I mean, at the various stages of their startup building. But with that, give us a larger view of how you see the evolution of entrepreneurs, the maturity of startups, be it with funding, be it with their strategy when it comes to sustainability building. As Ajit rightly mentioned, fundamentals have not moved, not changed. So that focus remains there, constant. So your bit and your opening remarks on how the last 10 years have shaped startups in India. We can't tell you.
Sorry, I was muted. No, thank you for having me here, and great to be part of this wonderful panel. So I think when I look at the last 10 odd years, and also the journey that we've been through, and the overall evolution of the startup ecosystem, I really think about this mixer board, the sound mixer board. There are different kind of those plugs which sort of keep moving up and down. And the last 10 years have sort of tried to balance to make sure that we get the best possible sound output out of this entire sort of the ecosystem itself. So whatever that was, like the whole idea of people believing in ideas, like Ajit was mentioning, when we started out at that time, the word startup itself was looked at with a lot of doubt, saying that what is it that you're going to do? For me personally, I had to actually go out and make a presentation to my parents and my in-laws at that time to say, you know what, this is why I want to do this. And then from there on, if you see the way this has moved, is that there have been these waves. This whole the whole focus on hyper growth, the whole focus on large bets. We may today, looking back, come in and put in our comments whether that was right or wrong, but was that necessary? It absolutely was. It was that entire excitement that brought in the belief that people like us, the young entrepreneurs, could actually think about this as an option. So I think that's how it has moved in our own journey. We've seen people starting with a lot of doubt, people questioning, saying, would you be able to actually create a profitable business in agri, to saying that, okay, yes, we saw 2021 where the whole thing really sort of moved up and a lot of money came in, a lot of new startups coming in. But it's basically this whole journey, it's the whole process which the entire Indian startup ecosystem has seen, and we're sort of going towards balancing those levers so that we get the best musical output out of this. Will it be very smooth even going forward? It may not be, but it really has helped us as entrepreneurs, whether the ones like us who've been here for some time, or the ones who are thinking of it, that it is not just about growth, it is also about profitability. It is also about making sure that you have enough growth, but not as blind as probably it was at some point in time, but all of it coming together. And that's how the maturity of the probable and the potential entrepreneurs has been built, is how I would sort of put it across.
I kind of agree with what you said and what Ajit has already mentioned, because in the last few years we've seen corrections in the right way. After seeing the highest points of fundings and becoming unicorns, the highest numbers of becoming unicorns, that high has gone away. And for all the right reasons, investors have got their own lessons. Founders now are focusing on profitability, unit economics, and all the needful fundamentals. What I believe is 2026 will be the year of a recalibration, or I would call it a strategic reset. We're seeing a little of turbulence when in the last quarter of 2025 with geopolitics, many macro factors affecting the lifeline of startups across sectors. But in 2026, I somehow think that things will settle somewhat, but it's still open, and we will decide in the last quarter maybe. I'm quickly bringing in Ruchi for your opening remarks. And tell me from your experience of building already a startup and this the next one you're working on. Also, the recent one is the bootstrapped one. So from that perspective, give us a sense what has happened in the last 10 years of journey of India when it comes to startup ecosystem. Can't hear you, Ruchi. Can't hear you.
Can you guys hear me now? Yeah. So, Reshma, I think last 10 years and now where we stand in terms of where the startup ecosystem, I think a lot has changed, and a lot has changed in a very, very positive, in a very, very high, large scale direction. So I actually have been part of the startup ecosystem as early as 2012. I was with Matrix Partners, where we were investing in startups back then when it wasn't the cool thing to do. So, I've seen it very close, up and personal, and very early on, as and to see these young kids from IIT come with a dream of starting up and wanting to build something big. I mean, it used to be very heartening, but I also used to wonder, really, how do they get that courage? What happens? What do they go through? What's the psychology? And now, from there to now, what, it's 2026, so it's more than 10 years. And I meet again like young founders, and it's very heartening. It's not just about starting up, it's also about doing something of their own. And I think that is a big shift. The ability to the appetite to take risk has changed drastically. It's not just about building something for the world. It's about building something for themselves. And I see that change. It's very heartening. The second big thing that I see, and the second and that really really makes me very happy about the way the startup ecosystem has evolved. And because Physics Wala, I mean, Gopal is here from Physics Wala, people are solving for India beyond tier 1. So when it comes to education, when it comes to health, when it comes to financial inclusion, there is so much that can happen. And there is so much focus there, and there is so much to tap there. And to me, I think that is the biggest change, to be honest. I think I see that happening now, and everyone kind of thinking about what is it beyond Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, and Hyderabad. So I think that is huge. So that's another big change. Like I said, I think the startup ecosystem since in last 10 years has stabilized fair bit, I would say, both from the type of problems that the founders are trying to solve to the entire capital access ecosystem. I think it has matured fair bit, and I think that's a great thing. I think we are trying to solve. Everyone's also looking at governance very seriously. So I think you will see that as being a very, very high focal point. I think profitability being, basic metrics like CM2 positive, being CM2 positive is going to be something that is going to play a huge role in the way the startups are going to build in the next decade or so. So I think you see a lot of maturity sinking into the system. The way we are looking at markets now is very different. The problem that we are solving is very different. So I think we're in a great phase.
Very well, very well said, Ruchi. And before I bring in Gopal, I think you were very right when you kind of mentioned democratization. It's just not the idea of democratization when it comes to consumption, be it education, be it consumption, be it technology. The consumption story of India is looking very, very strong. But on the other side, the building story of India looks very strong. It's just not the cultural discussion of how to build or startups or a hype that we're talking about, but it's actually happening not just in metros but across. So democratization of risk appetite, institutionalization of building startups across India is such a good story coming out of India. Bringing Gopal in quickly for opening remarks, and tell us from your lens, how do you look at 10 years of Startup India, and how has it helped you as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, yeah. So I believe so. Thanks, Rasham, for inviting me here. And I'll tell you my story because I was on the other side of the table. The three people we have, they were building their own startup while I was a college graduate in 2012 back. So I joined companies there. So starting from that point, being a college graduate, getting into a job, then getting into a startup ecosystem, working for startup like Ola and Music Mind. So then building own startup, and right now at PW, we are trying to build our own college and our own startup incubator. So I can completely correlate the feeling of a founder, the feeling of college graduates, how they used to feel 10 years, 12 years back to now. All right. Back then in my times, we had a batch of around 400, 450 students, and two or three people out of the entire college were doing some startup. And we used to look at them like they are from some other world, right? And now, when I look at it, even in my college itself, IUI, which we are running here at PW, 50 to 60% students in first semester when they join, the first question when they meet me ask is, "Sir, I want to do something on my own. How to do? Tell me about it. How can I manage my studies and my startup together?" That's the question they are asking in first semester, right? So that thought process itself has evolved. Earlier, of course, doing a startup used to be a very bigger stigma, convincing parents, right? Earning some salary is more important, paying your loans and all this stuff. Now that has broken, thanks to all the Flipkarts and Ola and Furlenco and all the first generation startups which built this entire ecosystem. All right. I'll give you a very, very beautiful story. So when we started Ola back in 2010-11, we used to train drivers on mobile app itself, how to use Ola app. That was a bigger problem for us, right? But now the beauty, now things have changed. Now customers are very tech savvy in that case, right? So the initial startups which built the 2010 2015, that kind of a time, they were kind of building the base foundation of the future growth. So now customers are more tech savvy, founders are more understanding, founder understand the problem, they understand the customer better, they are now quality focused. And of course, after 20 COVID thing which happened, right, now they are anyways more financially aware, they know how to build their sustainable business, they are not just behind funding, running for marketing ads and done. So things have changed, and we are getting a lot of supports from startup ecosystems, from the founders. Now they are investing capitals into these budding entrepreneurs, and things are changing. So it's a very beautiful sign we see. Still, to tell you the reality, uh, a decent fraction of the total founders still focus on the service, solving the service problems for the, because of course we have a huge population here at India. But there are founders which are trying to build their own products, their own D2C, their own manufacturing, their own AI stuff. So things are changing, and I think like in next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, it is going to change even better for better.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Gopal. Prasanna, now quickly your opening remarks. But with that, I want to break that glorious picture of India's startup ecosystem story. We certainly have some gaps. We certainly see some opportunities for work, be it from a policy standpoint or the consumption standpoint. What can be those gaps in your observation? And with that, do give us your insights on how founders are now recalibrating their focus areas. Uh, we can also talk about IPO stories going strong. We can also talk about how founders are choosing to stay bootstrapped in the earlier stages to work on their fundamentals in a very focused manner. So there is a chain of changes that I see when it comes to entrepreneurs building cross sectors. Your bit on how you observe founders evolving and maturing.
Is that for me, Resham?
That's correct.
Perfect. No, one to touch upon, as being in a sector as, in agriculture, which has these overtones with respect to regulation, with respect to interventions from the government and other policymakers. I mean, we've been through some of these cycles to say that, whether, a certain announcement by the government and the uncertainty around it, how does that impact your own kind of thought process as you think about your own strategy? And what we realized is that as long as you're solving a basic problem, none of these or most of these external influences have limited impact on your work. So, for example, the moment we define our work as saying that we are here to see that farmers and other smaller players in India have the choice to really decide when they want to sell their produce and to whom they want to sell their produce to. It was a very, very basic problem that we observed in the ecosystem. And the moment you talk about ensuring that the farmers and their organizations are able to sell their produce at the right price, then I think a lot of your interactions with policymakers also are aligned, because what you're trying to solve aligns with their priority as well. So in our case, I think it has been this symbiotic kind of an association which has helped us tide over aspects like demonetization, which had a great impact on how the agri lending ecosystem really worked. Similarly, when COVID came in, at that time, while there were huge disruptions, it also paved the way for excluding agriculture as an area which needed to operate in spite of all the restrictions. And similarly, now we're talking about, say, the tariff wars and the way the US and India kind of trade discussions are going on, and agriculture plays a very important part of it. But at the same time, the benefit to farmers and the problem that you're solving for them is still paramount. It is still on the top of the mind of the policymaker. So I think as startups who are working at scale, it's important to see how the work that we do, the problem that we solve, how does that align with the priorities of the policymakers? I think that's been one piece. And similarly, as we've seen more and more entrepreneurs coming in, we've seen similar kind of thought processes also building as they have gone about building businesses. And one of the aspects that I really believe, and that's where I've seen like 100% success rate with respect to startups, is that if you have a problem that you think is basic and you have the solution for that problem, and you go about solving that in a focused manner, I have not seen startups fail, irrespective of whatever segment, whatever sector they have been in. The only kind of flip side I've seen is that when you start with a sort of a solution and try to find a problem to match that solution, and then a lot of money goes in, a lot of resources goes in, and that's where probably we've seen certain debacles happening. So to me, I think it's about identifying the problem and finding a way to solve that problem in a sustainable manner. Unit economics, operating leverage, we could talk about all those terms. But if you have the right problem that you've identified and you've gone about solving for that problem in a sustainable manner, that has really worked.
To your point, I will come back to you, Ruchi, in a bit on the lines of how you see the funding cycles fluctuate and what to expect next year or this year, maybe that aspect. And with that, what are some of the factors when we take lessons from, let's say, government lapses or maybe funding crunch? What are some of the lessons that founder takes? I will come back to you, Ruchi, on this point. But in the meantime, Ajit, with you, I want to discuss the IPO story of India. Uh, right now, every founder across sectors seems excited about IPO. We have seen successful IPOs happen in India. There are good growth stories of IPO in India, but on the same panel, we see not so successful IPOs taking place as well. I agree 100% that there are multiple macro factors that are not under control of a particular founder. But still, how do you look at the whole picture? Give us some contours of your understanding when you look at the IPO story of India, and how far do you think this trend will stay strong?
So let me put it this way, Rishabh. So I think it's every founder's dream to be to go and ring the bell, right? That is the okay. So when you start up, the whole sexiness about starting up is about I have started this company, and I'm cool, etc., etc. You raise money, and all those things happen. You're in media, whatever. But like you said right at the beginning, the past 10 years, the shift has been that can I actually ring that particular bell? And it has also happened that it cannot be done without profit. You can't be a loss-making company and go ring that particular bell. That has also changed. However, what is also happening is the pull and push between what is what is the market saying versus what the investors want. So, when we say a startup has gone public and it's a muted response in the public, it's not oversubscribed and things like that. That's basically because the investors have priced it such a point, their book, that you're not leaving anything for the public to take in. People are not seeing anything more in that particular share price. People have to wait for more quarters to come where the company grows, and then they can see the growth. Otherwise, the existing investors have taken out money at the highest price possible, right? So I believe it's not it doesn't reflect the company per se. If I believe that if a company is going public, I think they're all fairly good. It is always a push and pull between the investment bankers, the investors, and where the market is and where they price the share. That is where the point of, some shares are muted, some shares are oversubscribed, so on and so forth. But otherwise, I think we should all celebrate the fact that after 10, 15 years of this startup cycle, everybody is going public. Because for the longest of time, at least during the times when I was begging for money, IPO was a distant dream. So you only look at who's going to buy you out, who's going to give you more money, who's going to be playing the musical chair, who's going to be holding the last chair, so on and so forth. So nobody was thinking about even an IPO at that time. So I'm so glad that IPO is becoming a natural exit point. So we shouldn't worry about how it's becoming it's a great story at IPO or not. That is immaterial, because IPO is not a destination; it's a milestone. You are continuing to run the company. You're continuing to make profits. You're continuing to build value for whoever is your shareholder. So it's just a milestone. But from a founder perspective, I think it's a big milestone per se. One should be very, very happy that they've gone and rung the bell.
Yeah, circling back to your point, it's a dream. Uh,
Yes.
Wonderfully put. Ruchi, I'm coming back to you with my earlier point of funding and investments, because you have invested so many years in the ecosystem. How you must have seen the cycles of funding going up and down, the highs and the lows. Talk to us on those lines. We have seen the funding fell in a couple of last years. It wasn't as high as was expected, but in 2026, also in the last couple of weeks of 2025, we have seen big headlines of big fundings. That's a good sign of recovery. But what do you expect to see in 2026? We again can't hear you.
Yeah, no, I was saying that I don't think there was, I mean, it's just, I think it's great for the news flow, that, okay, there is the funding has dried up and there is, a bear run or things like that. But I don't think in private space there was a dearth of capital. I think there was probably just a small pause, okay, because I mean, look at it. I mean, the first 10 years of the startup ecosystem coming together, maturing, I think we had to see it come to a sort of like a more a stable stage, and I think that's what we saw, rather than capital kind of becoming scarce. I mean, I would say it was just kind of like a slight re-engineering of capital access that happened. I think even now, I think, I mean, there is a lot of capital in the system. There is a lot of money to be deployed, and there is a lot of returns to be earned by everyone. So, I think it's just like how, what has changed is just how the investors are now approaching, capital deployment, and the way they are kind of looking at startups and investment opportunities. Earlier it was also, I mean, I would say very FOMO led, like, oh, suddenly hyper local is the thing. Oh, how do you find more opportunities like that? Or, so I think that has changed now. People are looking at fundamentals more. But good businesses are still getting funded. There is less noise about it. I think, it was early days, so there was bound to be some noise about it. So yeah, there is still a lot of capital. I think it just the way it is getting deployed, the way the opportunities are getting picked up. is shifting, and I think that's great for us. uh, the one very good, I mean, we guys spoke about the IPO. I think that's, I think, very heartening, because for a long time this ecosystem did not really see exits, and now there has been a spate of public market listing and exits there, which has delivered really really great returns for everyone. So I think that again brings back a lot of confidence into what, how we are doing as an economy and as a ecosystem. So those things will now define, I think, and you will see a lot more very good heavy deployment of capital. But like I said, fundamentals will play a big role. Domestic capital is opening up in a big way. I think that is great news for us. I think the reliance on foreign capital is not, maybe we're very very heavily reliant on foreign capital for a very long time, but with domestic capital opening up, I think that is going to really change the game drastically. So I think all in all, I think everything is great. I don't think
With you on these
I
points, because I agree that there is no dearth of capital, clearly, because we are sitting on huge heaps of dry powder, be it VC money, be it money with HNIs, family offices here and there. But with that, we need to have some strategy to channelize that better. So we will continue to see that movement in a couple of months or maybe years. That will take shape in some time. And also, I'm seeing an encouraging trend of successful entrepreneurs becoming investors, angel investors launching their own VC funds, backing early stage founders. That's another healthy trend that we see in India. Quickly coming to you, Gopal, if you can point out some areas where you think that the ecosystem needs to work, some challenges, some gaps that you observe. This is not restricted to your sector, but overall a view of the ecosystem.
Yeah, yeah. So since very recently I've started working with startup founders themselves, so I know the challenges what they face. Uh, uh, so if you talk about how a founder builds a company, right? There are multiple pieces involved into this. One is the founder himself and his own team and stuff, right? Another is the government policy, as Prasanna sir also pointed out, that government plays a very crucial role in there. The policies what you have, the processes what you have, right? So that is one piece which can be better, which can be built better. Coming to the startup founder part, so for founder, broadly, the as Prasanna sir suggested, finding the why, finding the problem, which is the right problem which should be solved, is the right attitude which a founder should develop. And this is where generally most of the founders lack, right? So this is where the role of a mentor or of a guiding light comes into picture. If someone can guide the founders how to identify the right problem in the market, all right, so that kind of a mentorship, that kind of a thing, of course it is already in process of building. A lot of founders, a lot of VCs, investors do provide such kind of a guidance, but that can be improved further. Second thing is, of course, the fund availability. So as Ruchimam suggested, funds are there for the people who are building in the right direction, who are doing good. But one thing which I feel can be improved further is possibly the investment in a long term bet. All right. For an example, R&D, which we say in a simple term, R&D does not give you return in next 1 or 2 years. It might give you return in like 5 years, 10 years down the line. For OpenAI, right? So yesterday only I was in a meeting with OpenAI people. They started in, I think, 10 years back, right? And ChatGPT is 3-year-old product, right? So that was the thing. They people invested, trusted into them, and then the technology came out 5, 6, 7 years later after raising their investment and stuff, right? So that thing, I think India will take some time to reach there. Our generation, our founders will take some time to reach there. That is one thing which should evolve, which should be better. And then you can say the other support functions or support things which we can give to the founder, or which is the kind of ecosystem demand. All right. So I'll tell you one thing which I learned being in this journey is entrepreneurs tend to help each other. The more entrepreneurs helping each other, the more this ecosystem will grow, the better everyone will have things to develop on, things to collaborate on, things to work on, and then better output will come. So I think that will also need to improve, and I think it will improve automatically. That is already in the way. So these are few things I
With
think
that,
can be.
yeah, with all of those points, I can confidently say that we're on the right growth path, and the movement is on the right track. So we will see the India's startup story shine brighter in some more years. Prasanna, bringing you in the similar track of conversations, point out some areas that you think that holds the opportunity to work on. Also, from a policy standpoint, we see government being so encouraging, acting like a catalyst for the whole ecosystem, launching sector-specific funds. The RDI fund that we've been talking about a lot, a huge focus on deep tech, manufacturing. So all of that stuff, government is playing a crucial role, certainly. But with that, if you have any observation on that part, where do you see the scope of work? Do mention that, and also specific to your area, if you can give us some inputs as well.
So I think as an organization, as a startup, we've certainly benefited a lot from the tailwinds that have come in from the government and some of the priorities that have been set out. The whole piece around recognizing startups as the way forward for employment generation, for solving certain basic problems, and with that, the entire Startup India initiative, the whole focus around credit and investments to be offered to startups. As an organization, where we really benefited from was the whole focus around startups being able to access ECBs from foreign lenders, which really helped us in the initial years to get the right capital from right partners. And it is not about saying that the government is going to do everything. It's about some of these initiatives that brings in other people. The whole ability to convene is the real encouragement that any government or a policy initiative could do. The fact that we were able to access ECB funds from a foreign lender meant that there were other lenders who believed that if this one lender could believe in a company like Arya.ag, then we could also do the same thing. So the whole idea that we have seen over the last decade has been the whole point on initiating some of these points. These in themselves could be smaller, but the ability to convene other support, other resources has been immense, and that's where I think as startups, not only Arya.ag in what we have done, but also I'm sure other startups have really benefited from. And being in a sector like agriculture, where we work with smallholder farmers, we've seen that being extremely encouraging. For example, nobody ever thought of price risk insurance as a concept. I mean, it's very specific to our business. But if I were to go to somebody 10 years ago and talk to them about price risk insurance, they would just say that, this has never happened, it can never happen. But today we have insurance companies coming in and offering price risk insurance products. Now, it has happened because somebody believed that this is possible, and it gave us that little leeway to say, okay, let's try it. So I think it's about some of those initiatives that really are helpful in helping startups grow.
I mean, I agree to this, and all the points that you mentioned is something that nobody on the panel would disagree. But with that, I think the momentum that we have seen in the last 10 years is taking shape, and it is moving towards maturity. So momentum to maturity is something that we're seeing, and in the next 10 years, it will become even better. In the last 15 minutes or 10 minutes, I would want everyone to double click on their future plans for this year or next 24 months, company specific. What are your future plans? What are your growth plans? Talk to us on those lines. And then we close with a quick question to each one of you. Agit, quickly to you.
Me? Okay. All right. So we are in the pathway to IPO, and one of the things that I've learned in the past 14 years of running this company is don't try to be wild. Um, Business is about doing boring things repetitively and more efficiently. So we are exactly going to be doing that, doing boring things more effectively, more efficiently. Don't try to get into things which we don't know, just because, like we discussed all this while, startups are matured. One of the most priciest advice that I was given was that profitability is freedom. So we take that. I've taken that in my head.
That sounded like a good headline, huh?
Yes, profitability is freedom. So I don't want to lose that freedom. So, which means that doing wild things, what I mean by wild thing is doing something new, trying to get to foreign country to start up. I get ideas on a daily basis. It's not that no, we've started something. So obviously we'll keep having ideas coming out. To say no to these things and to remember that profitability is freedom, and to maintain that freedom is the mantra. So the next 12 to 24 months is to be boring, to remember that we have freedom, to remember that profitability is freedom, and get to IPO and make value for shareholders. That is going to be the mantra.
Wonderful. We wish you all the very best. And
Thank you.
this is the sentiment that I think Ruchi shares with you. This is the core sentiment of being serious, boring, but to make things work in the most efficient and most sustainable manner. Ruchi, your share on this point. What are your plans for next 24 months?
Uh, Honestly, I think at the life stage at which I am, I want to remain as independent as possible. So freedom, the word that Ajit uses, actually something that's very close to my heart these days. So big plans, yeah. I mean, we are very early stage, really, honestly. I mean, it's a very, very difficult business. It's very cluttered. So lots to do. But honestly, I think I want to grow emotionally rather than anything else. That's the idea. Growth plans, of course, but like I said, the idea is to grow sustainably. The idea is to stay as long as possible independent. So
Percent, but any
that's
concrete 1, 2 points that you can give us?
we're looking at some international expansion very deeply, actually. So you would probably hear that maybe
Wonderful,
soon.
wonderful. Your point, Gopal. We know that the big story, IPO story of Physics Wala, but apart from that, what are your focus areas, immediate focus areas for coming months?
Yeah. So PW, we started with the hardcore JEE and NEET coaching exam preparation, right? We expanded to other competitive exams like UPSC, GATE, and so and so. All right. That was the core origination point. And then we expanded our business in both directions. You can say the forward extension, which is like after competitive exam, what does it come? What comes to the student after JEE and NEET is a college. So we are there opening our own colleges and opening our own skilling vertical and so and so, and then backward extension, which is like schooling, right? So like we are trying to solve this entire build this entire ecosystem. So that is the plan. And major focus is going to be as our building our offline capabilities more, because education, we realized it, like we were fortunate enough to understand this mantra in the beginning, that education is education, delivered by online or offline, these are just two different modes, right? So we focused on building omni-channel. Let's do both, whatever is required for the students. So that is going to be the focus. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Prasanna, what is your to-do list look like?
We are.
Especially with the fresh funding coming in, what are your plans?
No, absolutely. I think this is a very important milestone in our journey towards going public. We want to be the profitable agri-tech, having gone public in the next about 15 to 18 months. So that's the journey that we are on. And the other thing that that we have very clearly etched in our minds is to see how do we take technology closer to the farm gate in an affordable manner, where farmers like Gopal was mentioning, we are at that stage. We are sort of trying to train farmers and farmer organizations on how to use mobile applications. So I'm sure we've covered some journey. The next 2 years are going to be very, very exciting, because imagine what can really happen when your OPEX can go down significantly just because you've been able to move transactions online onto a digital world. So I think that's how we look at our future over the next 2 years.
Very interesting. We are left with just 5 final minutes. I want to give each 1 minute to talk to us on the lines of what looks exciting in the new year. Apart from the sector you're working in, what looks exciting? Or apart from that, you can give us your concluding remarks on what can be one big trend or one big shift that you are expected to observe in this year? This is something that I want to close with, and so that I can make list of four tangible takeaways from this discussion. This is something that I passionately follow when I do panel discussions. Starting with you, Ruchi.
I think it's in front of us. AI. I think everyone kind of talking about it, and I think so. What are the big things that will
Anything to
change?
add?
How
Any other trend that you look at that you expect to take place in this year?
uh, I don't know actually, to be honest. I mean, I think we've been so obsessed with AI, and we use a lot of AI in our business itself that we kind of just keep getting very enamored and by
100% makes sense to
like
all of us.
how it is
That's the
kind
big
of
story.
seeping into all areas of our life. So I think education, I'm kind of really big on how education is going to change in India, honestly. That's something that has been a very close second subject of mine, as a sector. And I really want to see like the way but the whole sort of the K-12 format, or just the way IB schools have come up, and it's just all been very, again, not deep in that sense. So I'm kind of really waiting
But
to see.
in my opinion, this particular sector remains very, very, very hard to disrupt. So I am also keenly looking forward to what disruption
Yeah,
can be brought in.
yeah.
Ajit, your point.
Well, the way I would put it is that just be in India. India is the story. Other day I was talking to a few folks who had come from United States, NRIs basically. People are still, some of them are still vying for citizenship out there, green card out there, and so on and so forth. I believe I was in the US for 10 years, right? So having seen that country and having seen India, I think you do whatever you want, you're going to succeed as long as you do it with patience and perseverance. India is the place to be. We are in the golden era. It could be AI, it could be anything. AI doesn't need a country, so you could be in India as well. But there are so many problems in India that need to be solved. That just be in India, you're going to make money. So I would say people who are thinking about even going abroad, which by the way, I've noticed that the students are not anymore wanting to go abroad. They want to stay back. They want to start up. So these are all good news for India. So I think being in India is the new trend.
Adding to that point, a lot of startups are now trying to come back and register their base in India. So that's another healthy trend that we're seeing.
There you go.
Gopal, your concluding point.
Yeah, so as ma'am also suggested, AI is going to be there. We'll still see a lot of startups being built in the service segment because we have a huge demographic. So that will keep happening. Uh, One thing which wealth is going to increase because people are making so much of money. IPOs are there, so wealth management things will still keep going. One thing which I feel should happen using AI and which will shape the entire industry in India is the health industry. If you talk about the India demographics, health, education, and finance inclusion, that is the like core aspect. Finance is more or less sorted now with UPI, with financial inclusion, so much credit available. Education is more or less being sorted. We are doing, PW is doing something, other companies will do. Health is still very less accessible to the masses. With AI, possibly that can be solved. Some disruption will happen. So that's my
Wonderful,
assumption.
wonderful. Prasanna, your concluding remarks in 1 minute.
Oh, I think democratization of technology is one core bit that I really see impacting me and my business and also throughout. And the other bit, which I also see, which is again very specific to our business, is the changing role of women in agriculture. People have always looked at them as as being part of labor. Seeing this huge shift of them moving from labor to leadership. I think that's the other overall trend, and that's where we as a company are very very excited about, saying that when 70% of the labor force in agriculture being women, if you see that shift, what it can bring about is going to be tremendous, and that's where technology can play a very very important role. So I think we're really internally at Arya, we're really looking at these two huge shifts over the next say 12 to 24 months.
Yeah, this is one sector that is such hardly wired when it comes to the ratio of gender in participation of the sector. But if the needle is moving in the right direction, I'm happy to see so. And in the coming months, we will see that success happening in a happy moment. We wish you all the very best for all your plans. And on this note, I would like to thank each one of you to make time and join us for this session. It has been an exciting and insightful session. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you very
Thanks, Rish.
much.